Welcome to the Canon DSLR class. My name is Phil Ebener, and in this class, I'm going to show you how to use and feel confident taking great photos with your own Canon DSLR. If you're brand new to photography, or if you have a brand new Canon DSLR camera, this is the perfect course for you, and I'm so happy that you decided to join. As you can see in the course outline, we're going to jump right into how you can take amazing photos with your camera. So if you just got it and all you want to do is be able to take great exposed photos that are properly focused, we're going to show you how to do that. Then we're going to do a brief overview of all the buttons, the doors, all the aspects of your camera. And then we're going to jump into more manual settings, all your different shooting options. Then we're going to jump into the menu and cover everything that's in a typical Canon menu. And then finally, we're going to cover a little bit more advanced topics and show you some accessories that you can use with your Canon. Now in this class, I'm going to be using a Canon Rebel T7i DSLR. This is also known as the Canon 800D in some countries. This is a very typical Canon camera. And if you don't have this camera, that's totally fine. There's several lines of DSLR cameras in the Canon brand. So there's the Rebel series that has the T5i, the T6i. Someday, and maybe by the time you're watching this, there's going to be a T8i. In general, all these cameras work very similarly. There's other models too, like the 70D, the 80D, the 70, the 60. These cameras are also very similar in terms of the options, the menus, the buttons you have. Now, if you have a different model, a button might be placed a little bit differently, but we'll try to go over it so that you won't be confused if you are using a different camera. My goal though is no matter what Canon camera you are using, by watching this course, you'll feel confident at the end of it, knowing how to use it. In this video, I want to show you how to quickly start using your Canon camera if you don't want to learn all of the manual settings, or if you're just ready to get out there and start taking photos. And you want to make sure that it's exposed properly, meaning it's not too bright, it's not too dark, and that it's focusing properly. So on any typical Canon camera, you've probably figured this out already, but you're going to get your Canon DSLR, and it's going to have the body, which is just the base of the camera, and then a separate lens. That's what makes DSLR cameras amazing, is because it has interchangeable lenses that give you more professional options for taking creative types of photos. So to put on a lens, you're going to press the button on the side of the lens mount right here, and then open that up. Now this is going to expose the inside of your camera. The mirror, which is the single lens reflex that opens up. That's why it's called DSLR. And so you want to make sure that you're not getting any dust or anything in there. So ideally you're doing this in a clean environment. Next, you're going to take your lens, which also has a cap on the back of the lens. We're going to take that off. And then depending on the lens, you're going to line up the dots. This one, it has a red dot. There's also lenses that have a white square, and we're just going to line it up and then turn to the right or clockwise. Make sure you turn it until you hear the click, and then it's probably a good idea just to give it a little bit of a wiggle to see and make sure that it's locked on. The cool thing about the cap that goes on the lens and that's on the body is that these can actually just screw into each other like so, and you can save that and put it in your bag or whatever. The next thing you're going to have to do is make sure you have your battery and memory card inside your camera. So it needs the battery to be powered on, obviously. So on the bottom of the camera, there's going to be a little door that you generally can just pop open like so. And then you want to have a charged battery that you can put in. So you want to see inside, there's usually these little metal or metallic bars down at the bottom that you can see, and those will line up with the metal sort of prongs that are inside. Now, if you don't have it the proper way, it's just not going to fit. So you don't have to worry about it like going in the wrong way. So you're just gonna flip it around until it again locks in place. And inside the battery door is this little lever that if you press that open or press it up to the side, it pops out the battery. Now, depending on your camera, the battery is might be a different size. And so that's one thing you have to be aware of if you are getting extra batteries. Make sure they're the right size for your specific model. With the SD card, very similarly, there's a door on the side. On the T7i, it's on the right-hand side, and that's generally where your SD card holder is going to be. So you can open up this door just by sliding it out like so. I already have an SD card in here, but if you don't have an SD card, you just pop it in and press it in until, again, it kind of locks in place. To pop it out, just press it in and it pops back out. Now we'll go into specifics in terms of the SD card types and accessories later on. I have a 32 gigabyte SD card from SanDisk here. What's more important about SD cards is the speed of the card. So this is 95 MBS, so megabits per second, and that's going to write your data on the file very quickly. If you have a slower card, it might take a while for your camera to process. It might not be able to take as many photos as quickly as you want. So generally getting a faster card is better. And nowadays, memory cards are really relatively cheap, so that's a good thing. And 32 gigabytes is a good size. I would say get anything bigger than 16 gigabytes, even up to 64 or 128 is good. Now that you have your battery, your memory card, and your lens attached or inside your DSLR, it's time to turn it on. So here at the top, we see this switch right here. It just turns it from off to on. Again, depending on your DSLR, it might look a little bit different, but generally on Canon DSLRs, it's going to be a little switch next to this dial, which is the mode dial or the exposure dial. And we're going to be going over all of these options in the next section of this course. But just to get started, we're going to make it easy and we're going to turn it all the way on the automatic mode. So that's this little green one right here that says A+. Most Canon DSLRs will have that A+ option, which is the complete automatic mode, meaning when you try to take a photo, it's going to look at the scene, it's going to adjust all of the internal settings, the aperture, the shutter speed, the ISO, all things we'll go into in more depth in future lessons. It's going to set all of that automatically so it looks proper. The other thing you want to do is adjust the autofocus settings on your lens itself. Now this lens I'm using is called the 50mm prime. So it's not a zoom lens, but it's one of my favorite Canon lenses, and it's relatively cheap. And if you're looking to upgrade lenses, this is a great one. We'll go into more depth into lens choices in a future lesson. Here though, you can see that it has a little switch that goes from MF to AF, autofocus to manual focus. Make sure you switch it over to autofocus so that you don't have to manually focus, which nowadays with most DSLR cameras is the way to go. Most cameras do a really good job at actually taking exposed and in focus photos. And now we're ready to go. Here is the shutter release button, which is the button you press to take a photo. So all you really have to do is start shooting. You can look through the lens, and you see here that when I look at the camera, try to take a photo, it actually turned on the flash. And that's because it's completely in auto mode right now, and it recognized that it's too dark in this room, and so it's going to pop up the flash. Now to review my photo or to actually preview what my photo is going to look like, I can open up the back screen. Now this is going to look different on different cameras. Sometimes there's just no flip out screen. This one is nice because you can flip it out, you can turn it around, put it back in place so that you can actually just go ahead and start taking photos like this. If you're not seeing what your camera is looking at on the screen, you have to press this little button right here, which is the white little camera button. And that's going to open up the lens and give you a live preview. So now you can see in the camera that I'm actually looking at what I'm going to take a photo of. So now when I took a photo like that of my blank wall, we didn't have to use the flash because there was enough light. So those are the two options for basically seeing what you're going to shoot. You could look at the back screen or you can look through the viewfinder like a traditional camera. Note though, if the back screen is open and you're seeing that live preview, you won't be able to see as well through the viewfinder. It's going to be blank. So you have to kind of pick one or the other and just use this little live preview button there or wherever it is on your camera to switch. The last thing I want to mention is we saw that as I took a picture here, it brings up the flash. What if you want to take a photo without the flash, but you want everything else to stay auto? There is an option for this. That's the option next to the A plus, which is the one that looks like a little lightning bolt with the slash through it. That's going to be a complete auto setting, but it's not going to use the flash. So that's an easy way to shoot without a flash. So I'm gonna shoot again. My settings are going to be different, but it's still going to try to expose properly. Now, if you're in a completely dark, pitch black room, it might not be able to expose properly, but it's going to do its best with the settings you have in your camera. All right, so that's a quick start guide to using your camera. Remember what we covered, just adding your lens, your battery, your SD card, changing it to the auto mode, and of course turning your camera on. We also saw how you can use the back preview screen to see what your photo is going to look like, and also how to change it from the all auto mode to auto mode without flash. One quick last thing is to review your images. There's going to be a little button that looks like a play button. Here it is on the bottom of this camera. And if we press that button, we can actually scroll through our photos. You see this little dial right here, it looks like a little button in the middle, and then it has like up, down, left, right. When you're in the review mode, you can use these buttons to run through your different photos. To get back to shooting mode, just press that review button again. That review button might be in a different place on your DSLR, and this little dial might look a little bit different, but on most Canon DSLRs, it's going to have some sort of joystick or dial like this to go left or right through your photos. All right, get out there, practice shooting with those quick auto modes, and in the next lesson, we're going to go over a more in-depth overview of the entire camera.